Hey guys, I've been doing a ton of research on this image that Treyarch had tweeted. I mean, you guys know how I do. Like, I like to go in and really dig out as much as I can. The community as a whole learned a lot about this picture in a short period of time regarding its links to alchemy. All the symbols were able to be matched up for the most part, but the only problem is we were just scratching the surface of what was really going on with the symbols and what they really mean. It can be tricky to understand alchemy and translate it. It dates way back to the ancient Egyptian times, and since then it has evolved quite a bit. In different eras and different cultures use all kinds of different symbols, so yeah, it can be really tricky to understand what some of them can mean. During my research, I found a lot of really interesting information surrounding alchemy, and I'll go over that in a later video. In this video, I just want to focus on the poster and the column of symbols on the left. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know that it's a possibility that some other YouTubers might be making a video about some of my findings, and they may not give credit, and that's okay. There's been issues in the past where people will attack those other YouTubers, so I just wanted to let you guys know, please don't attack anybody if they're just trying to share the information to get it out there to the community. That's great. I don't expect credit. So regarding the 21 symbols on the left, I know we've done the best we can to translate them up until this point, and it didn't really tell us a whole lot, but when I looked further into this, it is telling a pretty interesting story, and there is so much more to these symbols. I will tell you that even though these symbols are real and they do exist and they were used by ancient and modern alchemists, the way Treyarch has arranged them in this image and are using them is nothing that relates to anything in real life. There's no pre-existing potion or formula that is matching this by any means. What they've done is they've just taken the idea of alchemy and they've spun it and they're using it in their own way to tell us a story. So what's the story? Well, first we need to get down to what these symbols actually mean and get a better definition and understanding. It's common in alchemy for a symbol to mean something, but then that word is code for something else. And there are several instances of that here where we can take this one step further and get the actual definition that Treyarch was probably trying to imply. Let's take this symbol right here. This dates back to medieval alchemy, and this was found in a really old book from the 1600s. The description of this symbol is in French, and it's Fleur de Touraine. I'm probably butchering that, but that translates into English as brazen flower or brass flower. So that's not really telling us a whole lot. But when you use the medieval alchemy translation from the French alchemist Dom Joseph, it means this is the material of the work on the end of putrefaction in the time that it begins to whiten. If you guys don't know what putrefaction means, it is the process of decay or rotting in a body or other organic matter. So in alchemy, Fleur de Touraine actually means the ending stages of decay or putrefaction. That certainly makes a lot more sense given the context of the game, and this is probably what they intended. So we'll replace Fleur de Touraine and brazen flower with putrefaction, decay, and its final stages. Next thing I want to look at is another symbol that translated out pretty easily but didn't make a lot of sense, but when you look further into it, it does. And that is the sulfur symbol. That's a very important symbol for alchemy. It's one of the main principles, and sulfur is actually code for soul or consciousness. I'm not going to dive into the history of alchemy and its trinity or three principles, but just trust me, this symbol really means soul or consciousness. So I'm going to add soul and consciousness to the sulfur, and that's starting to make a little bit more sense with that one as well. The next symbol I want to look at here is the one that was translated into Sagittarius. Now that symbol does mean Sagittarius, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense and doesn't really tell us anything. Sagittarius is an astrology symbol, and I know that astrology often can go with alchemy, so I wanted to see what is the definition of Sagittarius in the world of alchemy, and I did find an answer that makes a lot more sense. So Sagittarius in the alchemy world, the theme is incineration and resurrection, and the element is fire. The alchemy definition is this is the stage of the ascension process, which is the incineration of the old form and burning up of the old and decrepit energies through stages of healing crisis. This is similar to the spiritual bonfire of the lower self and parasites. Once the higher divine blueprint and the cosmic ether have connected to the body, massive healing begins. This is the reducing of the old negative form and its debris into ashes, as the phoenix that rises from its ashes is reborn upon its old form, which was incinerated in the bonfire. This is the stage of the spiritual alchemy, which has phase transition, which can change the matter substance from blackened to gray and then to white. Sometimes one can sense the death energy in the blackened state. This begins stages of great renewal and resurrection in the ascending consciousness. So that's a pretty intense definition, and a lot could be speculated on with that, and a lot of maybe even storyline that we may see could come from this. There's so much going on here. But for now, I'm just going to say that this symbol is representing a type of resurrection. So the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together, and we're starting to see some kind of picture here that's becoming more clear. There's one other really important element here that makes it even more clear, and I'll show you guys that. But I want to applaud the devs at Treyarch. Whoever is up in that studio doing alchemy research, they've done a really good job. This stuff is really obscure, and they really had to know their stuff to be able to put this together and make it make sense. So I'm expecting great things for Black Ops 4 Zombies, with it having a really good backstory and a lot of depth. The last thing I want to talk about are the symbols right here that have the vertical line on the left side of them. The symbols themselves exist in real-world alchemy, but they do not exist with a vertical line. There's been no hard and fast rule to tell us anything in real world regarding alchemy as to what the vertical line means or how it affects the symbol. And when I say affects the symbol, there are some symbols that exist without it that are the same. Like you can see there on the left, there's just the head. Then it has the vertical line next to it, meaning that it has changed its property somehow. So we need to think of ways that it has changed the property of the symbol. And if we look at the symbols that are being affected by the vertical line, we've got rot, dead, and decay. In this column here, it is specific to those types of symbols and what those symbols mean. If you start looking at some of the words here, some of them stand out, like Sagittarius is meaning resurrection. And then you look at the words that have the vertical line, rot, dead, and decay, and the line changes its properties. Is it possible that the line means the opposite of those, or trying to obtain the opposite type of property? If you look at it that way, then it starts to tell a story that something is trying to be resurrected. We're trying to reverse the putrefaction or decaying process, the rotting process, and reverse the final stage of death. And a big shout out to Oscar for his input on this theory. Now I know there is a circular pattern of symbols on the other side of the poster that has a symbol that has a vertical line as well. I'm not going to go over that in this video. I'll cover it in a later video. There's just too much going on already. There is one other theory with this line, but I'm going to stay with the theory that it means the opposite of the symbol, or something trying to reverse its properties with the vertical line. The reason why this theory would make sense is because of the history of alchemy. The study of alchemy had two major goals. It was to turn metals into gold and create a potion or elixir of life that would grant immortality. The elixir for immortality wasn't about living forever as a human physical form. It was about the soul living forever, and you being able to come back resurrected and being able to keep the same soul. You would be keeping the same memories of all your past lives. And I don't know if Treyarch's going to go that deep into alchemy. They're probably just looking at it from a standpoint of a physical form and trying to spin it in with zombies. Although the list does mention soul and consciousness, and that was a big part of the elixir for immortality. So that's the theory I'm going with, that the vertical line means the opposite of the property of the symbol, or what's trying to be achieved. Another theory is something that's based in real-world alchemy and astrology, is that a vertical axis represents man, the body, and our upright posture, which is unique in the animal kingdom. So it's possible the vertical lines here are directing this symbol and the properties of it to a human body. It's trying to indicate that it's representing a human body versus some other type of organic body. I'm really gonna have to think on that theory and see if it can be debunked based on the other symbol that's in the circular pattern. And again, I'm not going over that here. I still have a lot more researching to do to find out more about that symbol and what all it could possibly mean. And I want to see how it relates to the other symbols in the circle, and I've got a pretty good idea about what it means, but yeah, it's going to take me some time. I still want to look into some of these symbols on the left here, like the antimony oxide, the alkali salt, and the oxygen symbol. I feel like there's still more to study and learn and uncover with these symbols that might lead us to a more clear story. But based on where we're at right now with these symbols and what I've been able to uncover, it definitely looks like a resurrection process, and it might go along the lines of real-world alchemy and the elixir of life. And if that's the case, we might be looking at a focal point of the Philosopher's Stone of some form, or some type of gameplay or backstory that's themed after that. I'm not going to go over the entire history of the Philosopher's Stone. I'll do that in another video, but basically it was the precursor to being able to make the gold and to being able to make the elixir of life. But let me know what you guys think about this after watching this video. If it sparks any kind of ideas or speculation, please email me at glitchingqueen@gmail.com. I feel like I've uncovered quite a bit, but I feel like with the community's help, we could go even further. And some of you out there may have a lot of knowledge about alchemy, and a lot of this makes sense to you. I would love to hear from those people. I know this was a lot of information, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next video.